Warm greetings to all. Research Culture Society is a government-registered scientific research organization. Society is working for the research community at national and international level to impart quality and non-profitable services. Our members are scholarly educationists from various universities and institutes of repute. Here the faculties, research scholars and students interested in the area of research are given guidance and support in how their work can contribute to the betterment of our present and future generations. Research Culture Society is conducting conferences, seminars, symposiums, workshops, training, and development programs on different themes. Society has organized 100+ educational programs successfully at national and international level in association with different educational institutions. Also published selected research papers as journal special issues and book proceedings. Society is running international level referred, peer-reviewed journals with ISSN and books publication with ISBN. Educational institutions, colleges, universities are being welcomed for Memorandum of Understanding and collaboration to organize events. Society is promoting and sponsoring educational events as well as publishing research work in collaboration. The Society also offers membership. The journals associated with Research Culture Society are referred, indexed, and with high impact factor. Society journals are publishing research papers, articles in all major fields and subjects related to sciences, health sciences, engineering, agriculture, pharmacy, commerce, management, social sciences, arts, humanities, education, law and life skills. Journals provide publications and digital identification with a nominal processing charge. Research Culture Society also provides print and online book publications with ISBN. Society invites book publication in all study subjects and categories. Thesis converted into book and conference proceedings publication also available. Research Culture Society arranges special lectures on soft skills, communication skills, personality development, behavior improvement, human resource development, career development, general knowledge improvement, environmental issues, and improvement, etc. in different institutions, colleges, universities, and schools. The Society bestows excellence and achievement awards in different categories as US Awards, SRA Awards. Thank you. For further details, visit
session, Dr. Javed Khatri sir, Dr. Suresh Chandra, Dr. Rajiv Jha, Professor Aliana Lizun, and Professor Jitya. So welcome to all, and kindly share your views about this conference, Dr. Javed Khatri sir.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Suresh Chandra, yes, sir, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Conference on new waves of digitization, socialization, and education system. In the previous session, we had some interesting papers related with various aspects of pedagogy and the new normal of online teaching and learning process. Okay. So the time I mentioned that we'll talk about digital aspects, that is digitization later. So I think this is the time. So when we talk about digitization, okay, primarily we are moving towards a new medium. Okay, the way there was a revolution when the printing press started, and what Marshall McLuhan talked about the global village. Okay, like right now what is happening, okay, this is also like we are people from various countries, various parts of the world, and we are engaged in teaching learning process through this medium of Zoom platform. Okay, so what McLuhan used to say about the global village is somewhat uh, turned into a truth with this particular kind of teaching, learning, and interacting process. But at the same time, McLuhan also talked about something called medium is message. Okay, so in that case, when we are moving towards digitization, so digitization is primarily we are moving towards a new medium, and every new medium will put forward certain new challenges in front of us. And uh, if there are certain weaknesses, certain limitations of the medium that we are using, those weaknesses and those problems will also be the problems of our message. Okay, so yes, digitization is an important move, and considering the new normal situation of COVID-19, uh, the digital education or online education and these online platform learning and conferencing, okay, it's something new, something very important, but at the same time it misses uh, out something very important, and that is what we call the physical socialization, like how we meet people in person, and how we can develop the interpersonal relationship, which is also one of the most important uh, requirement of education systems. Okay, so considering all these factors, yes, we have to accept digitization, digital education system, and online education system, and all these newer forms of socialization processes. But at the same time, we'll have to be a little more cautious, because the moment we talk about, let's say, digital education for an example, or say online education, then it's a good opportunity for many who has the means to achieve it. But at the same time, it is also a kind of step that will exclude a big number of people. There are let's say in India, only the place where I'm teaching and the rural areas around this place, like there are thousands of students who cannot afford all these equipments that are required for online classes. So if we are making online learning, teaching learning process normal, then we also have to think about those what we call not so privileged class of the people, and we will have to find out the solutions for them as well. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Next is Dr. Jha, sir, Rajiv Jha, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello.
The society as well as the Kyiv National University of Trade and Economics, Department of Journalism and Advertising. This is a good opportunity to speak on the topic new waves of digitalization, socialization, and education system. So the topic that I have taken to speak on the valedictory session is evolving e-learning, the prospect of M-learning defined, such as the mobile learning is the point at which mobile computing and e-learning intersect to produce an anytime, anywhere learning experience. We are there. And one of the most famous meanings given of mobile learning is by the expert Crompton. Mobile learning is the learning across multiple contexts through social and content interactions using personal electronic. Mobile learning can be conceptualized as informal, personalized, and situated. Mobile learning allows learning tasks built around data capture, location awareness, and such as RFID tags, global positioning system, quick response codes, and many more.
There is some connectivity issue.
Phase of the decade is there is an app for that. Just as when we look back only a decade ago on some of the technologies that we thought would revolutionize education, the hardware and software have moved far beyond what many had envisioned for a decade later. We can now see how apps can change the future of education. However, we may argue that pedagogy and practice aspect in the mobile learning, I propose 5 practices and design features for the future post COVID-19. And that is most meaningful design of a new app, apply the pedagogical practices of integrating it into the classroom, and conduct research that we will collectively build our knowledge upon. I reiterate, to conclude, I quote Kigan, the future of learning from e-learning to m-learning. With this, I conclude my small speech during the valedictory section, and I do thank Dr. C.M. Patel of Research Culture Society, as well as the Kiev National University of Trade and Economics Department of Journalism and Advertising, for inviting me for the valedictory session and to be a part of this international e-conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your appreciating this speech you have given us. Now our next, thank you, sir. Now our next speaker is Evangelia Madam from Greece.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible and visible? This international conference by the Research Culture Society. Today I have decided to share with you a presentation of mine just to make it a little bit more memorable. So allow me to share my screen. Okay.
Yes, please continue.
So I decided to start today's presentation with 5 strong images that I selected. And I would like to pause for a while just to think what is the message that I would like to convey. Well, I think it is clear to all. The message of violence and hate and aggression, in other words, that our society is in crisis today. Because COVID-19 has impacted our society and it has brought more violence, according to the Audrey Azoulay of UNESCO Director General, who said that during the COVID-19 pandemic and the related school closures, we have seen a rise in violence and hate. Now, as schools reopen, children are expressing their fears about going back to school. And he also said that it is our collective responsibility to ensure that schools are safe environments for all children. We need to think and act collectively to stop violence at school and in our societies at large. This means that educators should promote a zero-tolerance approach to violence. As education systems all around the world have reopened, as I said, schools must be prepared to respond to any kind of violence around schools, and provide support for those children who have experienced violence in the context of school closures. So this school reopenings offers us the opportunity, not only for educators, but also for governments and education officials, to reset the clock and take a zero tolerance approach, as I said before. And in other words, we should bear a strong commitment from school leadership. That's why I decided to talk about resocialization and preventive pedagogy, and particularly I decided to foreground Don Bosco's philosophy for stressful times. And for those who don't know who Don Bosco he was an Italian Roman Catholic priest educator and writer of the 19th century. The main objectives of my presentation is to improve the level of professionalism of teachers by focusing on the notion of schools as the arena of resocialization. In other words, to have morality as a social moderator. The presentation also draws upon an anti-victimization policy literacy because my aim is to create a pedagogical culture and a pedagogical social environment to the maximum. So I will focus on how educators can remodel the students' character and support the students who have experienced this post-COVID-19 symptoms, or even students with disruptive behavior, especially during our critical times. Also, the presentation substantiates the necessity of a theoretical framework. In other words, it aims to widen the pedagogical perimeter. It is an attempt to propose a different perspective, as I said, of Don Bosco's preventive system for our time, to provide immunity to negative phenomena of a pandemic afflicted environment and to foster a positive school environment attitude. Also, I would like to recommend some educational measures to isolate the children from wrong choice or somehow to decriminalize them. To connect, in other words, prevention from social deviation with re-education and inculcation of values, to offer a pedagogical prophylaxis. What is resocialization? I think we should conceptualize the term first. It's the learning process by which old behaviors are replaced by new ones. Or resocialization is the process in which a person is taught new norms and values, social norms, and practices in order to foster the transition from one social role to another. Resocialization differs from socialization because socialization refers to a lifelong process, whereas resocialization redirects the development of a person. According to the sociologist Erving Goffman's, it is a process of tearing down and rebuilding an individual's role and socially constructed sense of self. In other words, obtaining a new moral and social identity, a new self-concept. Because if something can be learned, it can also be unlearned. The education of the young and the preventive and repressive systems have been the main systems so far used. The repressive approach consists in making the law known to the students and just supervise them to detect transgressions or violations, and then decide on the merited punishment. It is a system that focuses on an attitude of superior dependent, the educator in an authoritarian position, and somewhat menacing ideology. It aims to target the following types of risk behaviors, because we play between the terms of conformity and rebellion, like truancy, bullying and aggression, racism and xenophobia, sexual risk behaviors, addictions, eating disorders, syndrome of mistreated, neglected and abused child, late arrivals and vulgar behavior. The most significant values, though, are in the preventive system and not the repressive one. As it was said by John Mary Pettit-Clerc, the preventive system is a faith and value-based educational system developed by Don Bosco, a priest educator. This educational system has proven to be a successful model and inspiration for educators on different continents, in multicultural and multi-religious contexts over the centuries. It is also known as the Salesian preventive system, or the educational philosophy of Don Bosco, or way or style or approach that can accompany young people today. It's the antipode of the repressive system. It consists in making known the rules and the regulations of an institute and then supervise, but in a different way, to make students be under the vigilant eye of a director and the assistant teachers who, like loving fathers, can converse with them and guide them in every event, counsel them and correct them to put them into the situation where they cannot do wrong. That's why we should favoritize the preventive system. It is based on reason, religion, and loving kindness. What it excludes is every violent punishment and tries to even to go away with mild punishments, because students are being forewarned. The pupil is not disheartened when he or she does something wrong. And that's why he or she doesn't get angry from being corrected or threatened with punishment. The preventive system offers the student previous warning, as I said, in a way that puts the student in the language of the heart, whether during the time of education or later. So the educator, having won the loving respect of the learner, he or she is able to greatly influence the learner. And that's where success lies, to become influencers. So the repressive system can hardly improve offenders. On the other hand, the repressive system makes the educator a friend of the student, a benefactor, a facilitator that shields the learner from unpleasantness, punishment, and dishonor. So in the words of Don Bosco, remember that education is a matter of the heart, and this is how we should socialize and resocialize our students. Don Bosco's educational values are nonviolence, mutual respect, love, appreciation, parent-child rapport, oneness of spirit, self-expression, peer solidarity, creativity, games, contact with nature, and yes, joy, happiness. I would like in this slide to particularly foreground that social pedagogy has the longest history in Poland, where it has been developed with varying intensity since 1903. So the resocialization pedagogics are ranked urgent, and I would like to refer to the Pedagogium Higher School of Resocialization Pedagogics in Warsaw, where their aim is risk behavior prevention, and not only at higher levels, but also at preschool and early childhood education. It consists of methodically recognizing and developing potentials in socially maladjusted persons, culturally excluded persons, and any kind of individuals that face existentialist problems that they cannot solve on their own. So here we talk about triggering an identity transformation and enabling individuals to function socially. But the big question is the system that I have just recommended still relevant for young people experiencing difficulties in today's society, the globalized world, the new normal era? Let's see. According to Marie Petitclerc, some of our contemporaries remain quite doubtful when they think that a 19th century educator, priest educator, could still bring a pertinent pedagogical response. The socioeconomic realities of our countries at the beginning of the 21st century and more are so different from the ones prevailing in that time. However, we should not forget that there is a common characteristic, that of our society, that it is in a crisis, and this hasn't changed at all. So in all era of social crisis, the transmission of values becomes a very crucial question, and the problems of the youth become even worse. Don Bosco's brilliant intuition, yes, still remains relevant in today's world, and it consists in knowing how to decode the phenomenon of violence observed in the neighborhoods at that time of Turin as a clear system of what? Of a lack of education. So the intuition of Don Bosco in the last century is correct. He said that if you don't take care of young people now, especially now in the pandemic crisis, they will soon keep you very busy. So the fundamental conviction is the quality of the relationship between the adult and the young, because there is lack of trust towards adults sometimes. There is anxiety for the future, this uncertainty prevailing everywhere, difficulties in the process of socialization. So this preventive system lies in three principles: trust, hope, and alliance, a formal agreement. There should be a pedagogy of trust, because without trust, there is no education. All the research conducted on the topic of resistance confirms that the capacity for change in a young person in repeated offensive behaviors rests on the relationship with an adult, that we should know how to trust the young person and not lock his or her past. So how is trust established? Through affection. The educator in the 19th century, after all the rationalistic movements of the Age of Enlightenment, reinstated affection within the educational relationship. And Don Bosco encourages the educator to manage the affection by placing it at the service of a relationship based on trust. So how can we synthesize the educational thought of John Bosco? He says that, diagrammatically, you can see here all the main components. Without affection, there can be no trust. Without trust, there is no education. An education based on trust is an education based on reason. Why reason? Because the educator who acts in a reasonable manner is persuaded that the young person is gifted with the capacity to reason. The young person is able to understand the interests of the young. And regardless of the behavior of the young, whether it is called delinquency or drug abuse or any other types of risky behaviors, the young person always has a reason for doing and acting in a certain way. So this kind of reasonableness is of the utmost importance, because by understanding the young person, what he or she was doing or has done, there won't be any necessity for external and repressive measures in order to maintain discipline. And it is this pervading sense of reasonableness that it brings the child to the young learner, the desire to be cooperative. It is a self-discipline from within and not based on controlled and external repressive forces. So to recapitulate, there are two ways to educate. Never via the repressive method of fear of punishment, but via the preventive method and persuasion. Because if we really think about it, it is always the young person who helps us, the educators, helps us to grow our pedagogical capacity. And then we are obliged to question the approach that we should evaluate ourselves. There is also the pedagogy of hope. Time is not a reality to complain about, it is an asset to help the young people to maximize all avenues of progress. So nowadays, it is very important to teach the young and the adolescents to be in awe when they encounter progress and to expose them to the beauty of growth. So Bosco proposes to educate based on the child to take root in his or her family, social and cultural heritage. Joy, it is a major aspect of the art of education. A sad childhood, it offers only condemnation. It is also to safeguard a set of rules in order to avoid rebellion from the adolescent, to offer security and introduce success. It is also a pedagogy of alliance, a pedagogy not about doing for the young, but doing with the young, along with the young, together with the young. It should be seen as a partner of the educative interaction. So the art of education consists in identifying the space of proper distance and proximity with the young. In other words, education is more an art than a science. What matters is not that young people be loved, but that they know that they are loved. Not the intention of our gesture that matters, but the way it is perceived by the learner. Isn't it the art of education a question of balance after all? To know how to say yes, but also to know how to say no. To be sufficiently close to our learners, but also sufficiently distant. To offer security, but also to make them responsible, to make a young person within the group and help the person to experience the group not like a burden, but like an opportunity in the whole process of socialization. So the cornerstone is based on an empathetic view on juvenile delinquency. So Don Bosco's pedagogical prevention is above all a preventive way to provide creation, vocational training, jobs, human and religious education, to keep the young away from dubious bad life or gambling or whatever this entails and moral decadence. It consists in making prescriptions and regulations of an institute known, not rules, prescriptions, to watch carefully that the pupils at all times be under a kind and vigilant eye, acting like loving fathers and mothers, that we can converse with them, to give them good advice and correction. And remember this, to foster a system to place the pupils in the impossibility of committing faults. Prevention that should be seen as a social intervention to help them get into deep waters, materially and morally, and prevent them from ending up in prison. So the character of the regulations is a supportive vacuum, and it should aim to make them all transgressions impossible. And this kind of key attitude, protective assistance, contact presence, and influence to avert transgressions, as I said, and preclude the necessity of punishments. The force then will come from within the students. They will themselves choose what is good. In this way, educators can also prevent fights, indecent or foul conversations, offensive language, improper actions, and immoral reading. So preventing wrong where it starts. It is a twofold aim, now that I proceed to my concluding comments, to promote the good through the correct use of moral authority, to promote good role models and prevent the evil. And my last slide has to do with how can we reflect on this Don Bosco's preventive pedagogy for today's schools in the new normal. We should talk to the students, to keep the lines of communication, to offer opportunities, to talk about difficult topics such as violence, smoking, drugs, sex, drinking, death, now that they feel this kind of uncertainty and fear, to be alert to the signs of upset in children, such as withdrawal, lack of interest, dropping out, fear of school or other activities, anything that is considered deviation from child's norms, to reflect and think, why did you say this to me? Why are you afraid? To reassure them that there are more people there to help us, to help them organize a community of violence prevention forum, to join violence prevention coalitions and set clear rules and limits. So Don Bosco's standpoint is to prevent them from getting into prison, prevent them rather than cure, take care of those who are abandoned and they are in danger. And I would say that the contemporary educational voice says, re-educate, resocialize, act preventively, and save the young, because they are the best gift to humanity. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You spoke very well, and I'm very grateful you took the time out of your busy schedule. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now the next, thank you, ma'am. Now the next is our Dr. Suresh Chandra, sir. Dr. Suresh Chandra, sir.
Am I
Yes,
audible?
sir. Yes.
Society and the Kiev National University of Trade and Economics Department of Journalism and Advertising. And the eminent speakers for today, I was listening from the beginning. I joined this meeting at sharp at 4 o'clock, and I was desperate to listen all the speakers, and I was listening Dr. Khatri, I was listening Evangelia and Rajiv ji and everyone. So it was enlightening so far as so let us share a PPT. I have made a small presentation for the today's validity session. So if you allow me, I will be in my limit only. That is, that means within that 15 minutes, I will try to wind up. So let me share my screen. Just a minute.
Yes, sir. You can share.
Dr. Preeti.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine, fine.
Very well,
so,
sir. Yes, sir.
Very good evening to one and all present here once again. So I'm really happy that the Research Culture Society, that means is organizing a 2-day international conference on digitization, socialization, and the educational system. So as the previous speakers, they spoke on digitization and socialization. So if I start with Dr. Khatri's statement, that means when he started with Marshall McLuhan, I remember when Marshall McLuhan came up with the idea that the whole world is going to be global village. That means the global village concept when it came. So everybody thought during that time that how the whole world is going to be connected and how the whole world is going to be a village. So that was a surprising thing during that time. But nowadays, that means during the pandemic, now we have realized that how that means the whole world is connected within fraction of seconds, and that means a person who is sitting somewhere in Gujarat or somewhere in Odisha or in West Bengal or in Ukraine or in Greece, that means all of us we are now connected within fraction of seconds. So in the valedictory session, I'm going to make a presentation on new waves in education. So before that means I'm getting into that means the present trend or the recent trends in education. That means what are the changes that have been taken place during this pandemic or just before the pandemic that we will be discussing in the couple of that means 10 to 15 minutes. But prior to that, let me start with J.K. Rowling's two famous statements. As you know that J.K. Rowling is a British writer and a big that means philanthropist. And the first statement, just have a look. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. So during this statement is very apt so far as the pandemic situation is concerned. Everybody, that means across the globe, when the pandemic started, everybody across the globe, they thought that yes, the entire human civilization is going to be wiped out, the human beings are going to be vanished, disappeared. Many thoughts that came to the minds of the human beings. So in the light of that thing, if you refer the statement given by Rowling, J.K. Rowling, that happiness can be found even in the darkest of times, is apt and is more appropriate. Then the second statement by Rowling, that the world is full of wonderful things. You haven't seen it yet. Don't ever give up the chance of seeing it. You see, we have being that means being a fact, that means being an academician. Though I have reached at a senior level, that is of a professor, but I have never thought of that means I will see I will see the education sector, and which is going to be on. So when talking of online education, as I told you in the in the inaugural session also, we were never thought of that situation. But now things have been changed, and now we are, that means the online education previously or earlier, to which we refer as distance education. Now online education is the only mode which is the only choice which is left with us. So let me take you to the necessity of education, as that means, you know, why education is required. I remember the famous lines, famous lines of Swami Vivekananda, that if you want to become a very good teacher, then being a good teacher, you should come immediately to the level of the students. So to become a teacher, that means you should understand the level you can. And what is the fundamental, that means, objective of education? The fundamental objective of education is to achieve the full human potential and promoting national development. And providing universal access to quality education is the key to India's continued ascent and leadership on the global stage in terms of economic growth, social justice, equality, scientific advancement, national integration, and cultural prevention. As I'm so impressed with the presentation of Evangelia, where she spoke about that means Don Bosco. Let me tell you that that means here that you are aware that India is that means the religion and the culture of India is very old, and we are also having so many that means saints and scholars who spoke on those things. So I really appreciate the presentation which you have made, and I remember Sri Aurobindo and a few other great scholars of my land and my country itself. That may be Mahatma Gandhi, or that may be Sri Aurobindo itself. And universal high quality education is the best way forward for developing and maximizing our country's rich talents, resources for the good of the individual, the society, the country, and the world. There is a term in economics, if I'm not wrong, there is a term the term is brain drain. So why the brain drain was taking place during that time? What was the reason behind it? The reason is being that our country, though we are capable enough to, that means engage people, though we are capable enough that our people are talented, skilled, and everything is quite good with the Indians, but still why do the Indians, they migrate from our country? That means they leave our country and join other countries. So the reason is that we need to focus more on the universal high quality education. That is very much important. And the second thing is, India will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade. And our ability to provide high quality educational opportunity to them will determine the future of our country. Once, I don't remember the great scholar's name, once he said, if you want to destroy a country, if you want to destroy a nation, you just, that means try to, that means control the education system. And if you are able to ruin the education system, then the whole country or the whole nation will be ruined automatically. You have nothing to do for that. So the education is one of the most powerful tool, or you can say one of the most powerful weapon in the hands of both the common man as well as in the hands of the government, that how do they use education for the betterment and for the all-round development of the that means the society or the nation itself. I hope I'm clear, I'm audible, and I'm visible, and my PPT is also
Yes,
visible
sir.
because the new normal things which I need to ask in between while making the presentation. Just have a look that the global education development agenda that is reflected in the goal 4, that is the social development goals 4 of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development adopted by India in 2015 seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. That means even if now you see the life expectancy of the people that is across the globe. I'm not talking of only India, and that is just because of that means the science and technology, you can say, or that maybe because of that means the talent that we have across the globe. That means the life expectancy that has also increased to the next level. And such a lofty goal will require the entire education system should be reconfigured to support and foster learning, so that all of the critical targets and goals of SDGs, that is your social, that means the sustainable development goals of the 2030 agenda for can be achieved. How we are going to achieve the sustainable development goals? How we are going to that means ensure that each and every individual, each and every person is going to be benefited, each and every individual of this country or of that maybe of the globe, they are getting, that means the quality education, they are exploring in the right direction, they are doing the right kind of thing. How we are going to ensure? And that requires the quality education. If the quality, if the education is that means if the educationist is a qualitative one, if the educationist is a person who is showing the right direction, who is showing the right path, then definitely that means the SDG goals can be achieved very comfortably and very successfully. Let me take you to the next slide. You see, I was just going through the new educational policy of 2020 by the MHRD, which is recently approved by the cabinet in India. And the new education policy, it says that must provide to all students, irrespective of their place of residence, a quality education system with particular focus on historically marginalized, disadvantaged, underrepresented groups. Education is a great leveler, and it is the best tool for achieving economic and social mobility, inclusion, equality, and all. Initiatives must be in place to ensure that all students from such groups, despite inherent obstacles, are provided various target opportunities to enter and excel in the educational system. We are not in 1950s or 60s, or even we are not in the pre-independence period. We are now in the 21st century. That means the generation which we are now, that means the India is having, or the country is having, that means a lot of expectation is there. And I'm pretty sure, and I'm confident that the young generation is doing, that means wonderful things for the overall development of the country. And as says in the educational policy also, that means even if a deprived person, even if a underprivileged student, he or she is supposed to get the quality education. And that is the reason in our country, that means the people, that means even if a student, even if a student who is from his background or her background might be from the scheduled tribe, or might be from the scheduled caste, or that may be from any reason, from any race, caste, creed, color, whatever may be, he or she becomes an IAS officer, he or she qualifies IIT exams, he or she becomes the prime minister, president, and many more. This is what India witnessed from, that means from the ages itself. So now I'm taking you to the recent trends in that means higher education. Let me tell you that means what exactly the trend which is taking place in the higher education sector, and how people are, that means they're just making a shift from the traditional to the online. As the first one is adapting online higher education. You see, there is a big thanks, I would say that there is a big thanks to the pandemic. Though, as I told you that in the first slide itself, I show you that the statement given by R.K. Rowling, what Rowling says, that was even in the darkest times, if you have passions, if you have that means passions, then you can see the wonderful things which are going to happen in the future. So, but for that, in order to see the wonderful things in the future, you need to have a lot of passions. You need to understand what is going on in today's that means market, in the today's scenario, that we need to understand. So thanks to the pandemic, institutes across the globe have been forced to choose this mode of instruction. Online education existed before the pandemic. It is not new at all. Even as I told you, that online education was there, but we were not thinking, because being a, that means faculty member who is working as a, that means as a traditional teacher, we have been associated with the university, and we believe in the physical classroom teaching, and we believe that yes, if I'm having a class from 10:10 to 11:10 with the doctoral students, then I should be there in the class and I will deliver a lecture for 1 hour. That is what my job is. And for classroom teaching, I mean only the physical classroom. I mean only my students, they should see me, they should feel me, they should touch me. We can interact directly, face to face, everything that was possible before the pandemic. We have never thought of the pandemic, and we have never thought of this situation that we will be compelled and forced to sit inside our homes like that means like the pet, that means what I say, the pet animals. Now, I remember the famous lines of Aristotle once said that man is a social animal. So that means social animal, but we are now not in this society. That means if you just test out the 6 months history, you will see that for the last 6 months, we are inside our home only. How we are going to be social? Where we are saying that social distancing should be maintained, where we are saying that yes, that means you should not touch anyone, you should not, that means handshake anyone. So the social distancing concept that forced us, that means how we are now trying to, that means equip ourselves to survive in this situation. So the online education was there previously, but we were not aware of, that means we were not that familiar, and we were not thinking that it is going to be the future of the education. Okay, and we, as I told you, that online education referred as the distance learning itself. Owing to the increasing demand, higher education institutes are creating programs that can be completed online. Even though that is just the beginning, they received a phenomenal response. You see, if I want to pursue that means maybe a certificate course or maybe a degree course, or maybe a higher course, that may be from Ukraine, or that may be Greece, or that may be Oxford, or that may be any place across the globe. It is now so easier. That means the online platform that made us so easier that I can get a degree that may be of 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, whatever may be. So this is what, that means the recent trend, that means we are shifting from the traditional one to the online. Then I hope it is clear. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. Great. So now the next is the focus on quality education. I'm not saying that we are not focusing on quality education. That means in India, that means being an Indian, I feel proud that our education system is, that means no doubt, one of the best system across the globe. There is no doubt on that. But having the most comprehensive system for higher education, now the government is expected to focus on improving the quality of every institute and increase student enrollment. There were many school dropouts were there, and the government have been trying that how to motivate more and more number of students towards the school, how to motivate the underprivileged, the deprived class towards the university, towards the institutes, or towards the colleges, and how that means the quality education is going to be ensured. You see, I'm running 42 or 45. My age is 45, like that. That means I'm going to pass 50 or whatever maybe. So I was not comfortable in that means in using the online platforms, in using the laptops, in using all those, that means the latest technologies. But the pandemic that taught me, though I was familiar, I'm not saying I was not aware of it, but this pandemic taught me that how to, that means appear an online interview, how to go for an online conference, how to go for an online lecture, how to ensure that the quality education, how I am going to that means make my classroom more effective and more successful for my students that have been taught. And now we are focusing more on the quality education and the overall development of the students. So let me take you to the next slide. Increase in women enrollment. India has the largest education system, but when you take a look at the participation of the women in this sector, it is relatively low but thankfully it is expected to change and even increase in the next few years. Just have a look. That means the data is from ACSM. In 2018 and 19, the admission approximately 1.82 crore women enrolled for higher education. Since 2011, women enroll grew at incredible 4.9% as CAGR. Now we can expect a lot. That means you can say to have a higher education aspirations. According to the All India Survey of Higher Education, this is what the data. That means where the presence of the women was very less and very, what do you say, very negligible in the higher education. Now women are also participating in the higher education. They are also enrolling their names in the higher education. Many women, they prefer to go for the higher education in different institutes of repute across the globe, even if in the country itself. So let me take you to the next slide. I hope my slide is visible. I'm visible and I'm audible as well.
Yes, sir. Please begin.
Yes.
So now then the emerging foreign destinations.
Yes, sir.
You see, sorry.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible?
Continue.
Shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Continue. Continue.
Okay.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
So if I exceed the limit, please tell me, because being a teacher, I prefer to be on the time. But many times what happens that being a teacher, we always keep on, that means go on talking, explaining and explaining. So I will be trying to complete very soon. So amazing foreign
Nice.
destinations. I'm just giving an example. That means when you see in the pandemic, we were thinking that how to get students. It's not possible that the universities or the colleges or the institutes, they're going to shut down their doors. And the students may not visit, may not come to the schools or colleges or the universities. But it is not like the situation. But if you look at the present situation now, that means each and every child wants to be there in their home state or maybe in their own vicinity, so that he or she can avail better education in that locality. Because due to the pandemic, though that means for the time being, the people or the students may not prefer, or the parents, they may not prefer to send their kids to abroad. But once things normal, that is quite obvious that the parents and the students or the people, they will be prefer to visit foreign, that means abroad and other countries. Then next is growing demand for international courses. As I told you that even if I want to pursue a course, because I know Evangelia and that means another my friend was there. So though I know them, and now we can connect with each other. Now we can go for collaboration. Now we can interact more and more. Now we can exchange. That means the student exchange, that may be a student exchange program, that may be a FEP, that is your faculty exchange program. Everything that is now possible. So how we are going to take up that responsibility, how we are going to go for a collaboration, how we are going to certify the students, that all together is a different perspective. Focus on skill development. Now you see, even if in the latest that is your policy, higher education 2020, that means the focus is on the skill development. Even though 12.8 million individuals market each year, only a small percentage of them are able to find a decent job. The main reason behind this is that most of them lack the basic skills to get the existing jobs. To address this problem, our government is now with the new education policy, which focuses on skill development, entrepreneurship, and making the amendments to the Apprentice Act and many more. Even if you see now the universities, even if in my university, in our university, that is MIT University, Chhattisgarh also, we have the different, that means innovation center, innovation and incubation center is there. And we have different platforms, and we are trying to prepare our students in such manner that they can face any sort of situation and they can grab any sort of avenues or jobs which are available in the market. Then the introduction of holistic course curriculum. As I told you that earlier programs were often all about the imparting the theoretical knowledge. Considering in textbook learning is not really fruitful to get a decent job, institutes are expected to take a more practical approach to teaching. Institutes have, that means already started incorporating intensive to the degree programs. As I told you that even if that means in most of the colleges and universities also, though we were having the intensive program, that means in the 6th semester, but in our, that means the university where I'm working, and now we have kept it in that means in each that means in the second semester, from the second semester itself, a student is eligible to go for internship. And now this year we are again planning that even in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, in all these 6 semesters, we are planning that a student is that means expected to go under that means the internship for getting a better exposure, for getting the hands-on experience from the experts, from the industry persons, and we are now that means giving more importance, the institutes or the universities that are giving more importance on the industry interface as well. Because we are preparing our kids, we are preparing our students for the tomorrow, and the tomorrow is in the hands of the kids only. And if we are able to, as that means Evangelia was saying, that Don Bosco, the children, they are in our hands, and how we do that means nurture, how we are going to that means what type of education we are giving to them, what that means how they are going to grow in your life, all those things that are very important and very crucial. So that means the new wave of education, as we do, was that means the situation was a different situation before the pandemic. Now this situation, that means now the situation is a different situation. And again, we are that means in the hope that the future, which is going to that means come, which is totally uncertain, we are not aware of it, but still we can expect, yes, whatever is going to happen, we are going to encase the future as an opportunity only, not at all a challenge. So the development of a country mainly depends on 3 types of capitals. One is your financial, physical, and human. Out of this, human capital is to have the most significant impact on the socio-economic growth of a country. And to the progress and the development of a nation, the progress and the development of a country, that completely depends upon these 3 important that means the financial, physical, and human capitals. And the most important capital is the human capital. Why we say that the human capital, that always refers to the skills which you have, that means nurtured within a student, the knowledge which being a teacher I have provided to my students, and the experience which I have or the industry persons they have said with the student, that makes the fate of a country, that makes the future of a nation. So by that means this is all about that means the new waves in education. So thank you so much once again for listening me, and now it is open as well, because I can see that around 30-40 participants, they have participated in this that means 2 days international conference, and I'm so happy. So if the organizing team or Dr. Patel or Dr. Preeti allow for a Q&A, if it is possible, then I'm so happy. I will be happy to go for that. Otherwise, I'm so happy. I'm thankful once again to the Research Culture Society, to my colleagues, faculty colleagues, Dr. Preeti, Evangelia, and others, Dr. Rajiv, everyone. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It's really very nice to hear you, and feel fortunate to have your speech so much. Now our next ma'am, she's going to say something. Aniana ma'am, Professor Aniana. Yes, Aniana ma'am.
I'm very happy to see all of you in our conference. Now I have new colleagues, I have new information, and I think for us also. And I have shared my slides today, but I can repeat very quickly. Let me know something. And socialization and educational system is very important nowadays, and we must to help our students to be better, to use all innovation in digital for receive for find new information. We need to use computers, new tools, social media, and also we need to stay a friend for our students, because they need our support. All of them are like children, because even each of us, we need to study during all our life, and that's why all this problem we talking about at this conference are very important. And I would like to tell everybody thank you so much for this opportunity that we spend together all this time and have new information, have new ideas for our future decision, for our future research. And I would like to invite all of you in the future, in the spring, to our internet conference in my university, Kyiv National University of Trade and Economics. You can see on slides. Wait, I will make email and links for our last year conference. And I would like to invite all of you for future research. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Next, sir. Yes, sir. So we conclude this session, sir. Hello. Am I audible, sir? Very good. And we hope to do more such type of conference with the same enthusiasm and energy. And thanks to all resource person, all delegates, and all the organizing committees and all the paper presenters. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.